Dear fellow students and teachers, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Randy Bevington and I'm a first grade teacher in Colorado. I'm here today to talk about the 5 components of reading and how they connect to writing. You may see me glance down once in a while at my notes, and that's just because I have so much great information I don't want to leave anything out. One of the best articles I've read in a long time, entitled A Closer Look at the 5 Essential Components of Effective Reading Instruction, published in 2005 by Learning Point Associates, talks about all of these components in detail and gives so many great ideas. I highly recommend that article. So let's dive right in. The first 2 that we're going to talk about are phonics and phonemic awareness. And these 2 are really closely related because they're talking about the sounds and the words. And so students need to have that basic foundation. So in kindergarten, we're really talking about just going through the alphabet chart and making sure they understand that every letter is connected to a sound, and only focusing on that skill day after day until they get that. Once you get that, then you can start breaking apart words by their sounds and then building on from there. But you have to start with that great foundation. Next, we're going to talk about vocabulary, and this is really helpful because it's word recognition, which helps them read quicker, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So you can do this by just reading aloud to your students, and we're probably doing this every day in class anyway. So pre-read your passage, think about what vocabulary words your students are going to have problems with, and talk about them beforehand, and then read it to them so they can see it in the context of the book. Comprehension, this is really the essence of reading, right? Like, we want our students to understand what they're reading. So story maps are a great way to do this, of just talking about beginning, middle, end, and then working on to more complicated story maps from there. Fluency, and this is something on the article that I talked about early, really talks about, is fluency is not only the speed at which we read, but the speed and comprehension at what we read. And this is really what we want for our readers. So we can do this by rereading the same passage or book every day with them and really talking about what happened in the story. One important thing to consider when you're teaching all of these is progress monitoring. This should be driving your instruction for your students. And tracking that can be very overwhelming for teachers, especially that are new to the career. So a great article that I read, How to Effectively Track Student Progress, published in 2015 by Teach of America, is really helpful about just alleviating that stress from yourself. So yes, we need to track it, but how can you do that? You need to do something that's easy and sustainable for yourself that you can do long term. So that may be doing an Excel spreadsheet. That may be kind of old school like me, where you're printing it out, putting it on a clipboard next to you, and handwriting it in. Or if you're using Dibbles on an iPad, Dibbles automatically uploads it for you, and you can just go in there and check. So those are all great reasons, but find something that works for you. A great online resource that I've used in my classroom too is called Raz-Kids. If you go on their website, it's constantly updated. It has just been updated in 2020, and they really talk about the control that this gives the teacher. And this is great because Raz-Kids has leveled books that students can read, and it can read to them or they can read it. They log in under their own name, and it's really easy to do. And so they can use it during class or at home, and then teachers can go in and see how they're doing and move them up or down levels. It's a really, really helpful website, and students love using it. Lastly, I want to talk about the role and the ways that a literacy specialist can help teachers and students. A literacy specialist is really a resource for teachers and their students. So this may be attending PLCs, trainings with the teacher, working after class to create lessons, or going in the classroom and helping with small groups. It's whatever the teacher needs to become a better teacher. They should not be seen as an admin that is grading them. This is somebody that is there to help them and will critique them to make them a better teacher, but ultimately with just the main goal of helping them. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot.